What's up, everybody? Thomas Brandon here, and welcome to what I'm calling the School of Sim Racing. Now, really quick little background on myself so you actually know that I know what I'm talking about. I used to race outlaw karts, and that was a long time, about 20 years ago, but I used to race outlaw karts, and in fact, I used to race against people like Kyle Larson, Brad Sweet, Robert Ballou. They used to kick my butt, but used to race it against them, and I realized that pretty much when I was in high school that I wasn't going to have the money, the financial ability to hop into a dirt midget or a full size sprint car, and so me loving racing and wanting to be and be involved in racing, I went the mechanic route. I started learning how to set cars up, and I started crew chiefing cars and worked with some of the worked and learned from some of the best in the business at that time. Traveled all over the country racing. Chili Bowl and nationals and gold cups and silver cups and you name it. I mean, we went there, and it was a lot of fun. And I did that for quite a few years. Well, and back in, I don't know, it's been a while, 10, 15 years ago, I kind of stopped. I was getting older, and I had to, I was working a full-time job, and I just didn't have the time to keep in the racing business like I wanted to. And then last year, I discovered iRacing, and I had never even heard of iRacing before. And so I did it, and I got hooked. Now, I did it for about 2 months last year, and then I stopped because I have an online business. I'm self-employed, and I was just too busy at the time. And I'm somebody that when I do something, especially something like this, I refuse to suck at it. Like, I want to be good. And so if I can't dedicate the time to it, then I couldn't do it. And so I had basically taken a break. And then at the beginning of this year, I got back into it and started doing it. And one of the things that I have noticed with, in particular, well, all the dirt oval stuff, basically, if it's not a fixed race, there is always a driver or two that needs a setup. Always. So, winged sprint cars, non-winged sprint cars, dirt midgets, late models, somebody needs a setup. Now, I'm very open with my setups. I have no problem sharing my setups. First of all, the best setup in the world doesn't mean you're going to be fast, because setups are really determined on the driver, right? Your driving style has it matters. When we would set a race car up, if I had a driver like when we had Tim Kading driving for us, right? We're not going to set up the car for him the same way that we would for, like Tony Stewart, when Tony Stewart was calling, So it just name drop there, no big deal. But Tony Stewart actually never did race for us. We had a different driver at the time. But anyways, so the driving style makes a huge difference. And now, and because of this, I've decided to, do these videos. I want to share these setups with you. Not only share the setups with you, but show you how to properly make adjustments so you can stay ahead of the track. Now, this is not going to be done all in one video, because the video would be hours and hours long. And so I'm going to be breaking these up into different videos. And this first one I'm going to be doing is going to be for the base setup. Now, the base setup that I'm going to be showing you in this video, understand you can use it at any track. Okay, now I'll talk more about it here in just a minute, but we're going to cover a few things first. All right, so this base setup that I'm going to be giving you, I use it as a starting point for every track. It doesn't matter if we're at Fairbury or if we're at Eldora. Okay, now granted, I do change the stagger and the gear and the wing, but that's it. Everything else is the same. The bars, the shocks, all that other stuff is the same. Now, one of the things that I have noticed, and I've spent a lot of time trying to figure these damn setups out. One of the things that I have noticed with iRacing is when it comes to the setups, iRacing does a phenomenal job of simulating these race cars. They really do. And all the cars that I have raced, whether it's, asphalt, road course, dirt oval, and I primarily do dirt, that's what I love. But out of all the cars I've raced, it's all very realistic. I mean, to me, it is as real as you can get without being in a real race car. They do a phenomenal job of it. And when it comes to the setups, they do a pretty good job of it. Now, one of the things that you need to understand is that there are a few little quirks with the setups that we would never do in real life that, work in iRacing. And there are a couple of things that are not realistic. Now, this has to do with the fact that their setups are limited, right? So if you look at the setup on a late model on this game, there are twice as many, adjustments and setups as there is on the sprint cars. On the sprint cars, they're missing some pretty key components when it comes to setting up the car, particularly, things like the ride height. I mean, on a sprint car, we would block it. Same thing on a midget. We would block the car and then put our stop, just the torsion bar stops and all that stuff like that. Here, you just have the torsion bar stops, right? Certain situations with the shocks, they're not quite what you would see in real life. And then, the adjustments that you would also make, they're a little bit different than you would see in real life. Okay, so you on this game, the setup might be less than what you would do in real life, and then there's situations where it's more than you would do in real life. But overall, it is pretty accurate. Okay, it is fairly accurate, and I'm going to walk you through exactly what it is you want to do and how you can do this. Okay, so first things first, let's go to the garage here. And what you want to do is when you are going to establish a base setup for any track, you want to go to iRacing setups and you want to load up that track setup. Now we're at Charlotte Dirt Track, okay? And the reason that you want to do this is because, first of all, you want to see what they have, but also second, you want the gear, okay? Because the gears and stuff like that, then that stuff can change in this game. If you look at setups from like 2 years ago, okay, and then you look at the setups today, they're running completely different gear ratios. I mean, iRacing has come a long way in terms of the reality, and with the updates, there comes changes, all right? So we've got their base setup. Now, one of the things that a lot of drivers do, or I should say they don't do, when it comes to, earlier on in the race, and keep in mind, this is a 10% track, and so we're talking about establishing a base setup. So this is what you'd be running in practice and then qualifying, okay? So a lot of drivers don't account for the fuel. This has a huge, huge effect on your car, all right? And to illustrate this, we're gonna use that setup as is. I'm gonna go out, I'm gonna turn a couple of laps, okay? Now, one thing you'll notice, you can see my chassis and my car, see how it bounces around, how you can see the car swaying side to side? That's because I have the pitch and the roll and the options. I have that at 0. I want to see that stuff moving because that lets me know what the car's doing and when it's hooked up and when it's, not. It shows me how the car's reacting. So we're going to turn just a couple of laps here. I'm holding it wide open, right? Just trying to run the bottom here. The car is really having a hard time getting to the bottom. We're wanting to pop out. If we turn too early, right, then we have to cut the turn, and now we slide. We're getting that shake down the backstretch because we've got so much fuel and the track is still fairly heavy. But overall, right, not bad, okay? 13.8. 13.8 in qualifying is not going to be a good time. If I ran a couple more laps, could probably get it down to maybe 13.7, 13.6, right? Smooth it out. But overall, not very good, okay? Now, like I said, we've got a full tank of fuel, right? We've got 19 gallons. These setups that iRacing has, these are designed for the feature. And understand that their goal for these setups is to provide racers with something that they can use on a 50, 60, 70% track that they can go out and use and not, wad up the car in turn 1, right? Something that'll work. Are they going to be the fastest? No. Are they going to be the slowest? No, right? They've got a decent setup. And also, these setups have to try to accommodate as many drivers as possible. There's a lot of drivers out there that don't know anything about how to set these cars up. So they've got to have something that will accommodate as many people as possible while still being decent on the track. So overall, I got to give them some credit because they do a decent job of that. But it's not what we want, right? If we want to be faster and competitive, we need a better setup. Now, you're probably saying, well, Tommy, hey man, that fuel, you got so much fuel in there, no wonder it's slow. Well, and you're right. So we're going to take this down to 5 gallons, right? Because this is something that I will hear drivers do. They'll say, hey, has anybody got a setup? And then someone will go, hey, just use the iRacing setup and drop the fuel down. And then you're good. That's what they'll tell them. And this will definitely improve your times. Do not get me wrong. I'm going to show you that right now. This will definitely improve your times. But it will also affect the setup and handling of the car. So one thing that you will notice, but the car is it's snow plowing right now. I'm really having to jerk the wheel like continuously to the left because the car's wanting to push. Now, iRacing setup, they've got the wing all the way back, which is absolutely absurd. You should not have the wing all the way back. That is insane. That slows you down so much. And on a track this size, you would not be running the wing all the way back like that. Not only that, but you have no adjustability. So think about that for a moment. Let's say you go out into a race and you miss your setup and your car's a little loose and now you need to move the wing back to tighten it up. Well, you can't. The wing's all the way back. So you always want to have some adjustability left in your car. And the only adjustment that you have during a race in these cars is the wing. Okay? So we've got some laps now, right? And in the first little session with the full tank of fuel, we did 13.8. With 5 gallons, okay, we did 13.6. Pretty good, right? Not bad. Pretty good. We shaved 0.3 of a second off just by a lower fuel load. But we can do much better than that. And that's where our base setup is going to come into play. So let's head over into the garage and get this base setup on. Now, first thing that we're going to do is we're going to increase the stagger. The tire pressures on this game, I have discovered that you pretty much just want to like run the max. So in the right front, the highest you can go is 12, run 12. The right rear, the highest you can go is 10, run 10. The left front, you can actually get up to 12. I usually run 11. And then in the left rear, I run 8. There are situations, they're rare, but there are situations, especially on like a really slick track, like a 70 or 80% track, 100% track, where I will drop the air pressures, but I'll drop it by like a pound. Okay? For the most part, these are the air pressures I'm running. Now, the stagger, we're going to put that to 13 inches. I want this car to turn on its own. Okay, I don't want to be having to put a bunch of wheel into it. The more that you have to turn that wheel, the more speed you scrub off. And this track is a track that you can hold wide open. So we don't want to be scrubbing off speed. Next, we're going to go over here and we're going to get to our nose wing. I'm going to drop this down to 22 degrees. All right. The top wing, I'm going to put it at 24 and then I'm going to move it all the way forward. Now, this is not something that we would do in real life. In real life, the nose wing is usually going to be parallel with the down tubes. Typically, it's somewhere around, it's usually between like 26 and 30 degrees. It can depend on the car you have or what track you're running, but usually it's somewhere around there. Normally, we're not running at 22. The top wing, you'll run at, 20, 24 degrees, stuff like that, but you're not running it all the way forward like that, okay? Especially at the end of the night when the track's slicked off. You don't have the wing all the way forward like that. So this wing makes a huge difference in terms of the handling of the car, but also the speed of the car. So those of you who have ever raced in a 305 race and you're running a good line and the cars in front of you are still just pulling away from you and you're going, what the hell? Why can't I catch these people? And I'm driving a perfect line. What are they doing that I'm not, right? Because you're in a 305. Everyone's got the same fixed setup. Well, the difference is those drivers have figured out how to run with the wing all the way forward. That's a huge difference in speed, in the drag of the car, because those cars don't have the horsepower to make up for it. Now in the 360s, believe it or not, in iRacing, that still makes a difference. Now, it's not near as big a difference, but it does make a difference. There is a drag effect. Now, when it comes to adjusting the wing position, honestly, I try to never go past 5 degrees. Okay? Or 5 inches. If I've got it past 5, then I need to actually add some more angle into it. Okay? I want to try to be somewhere between 0 and 5. All right? Typically, I'll be somewhere around like 2 or 3. But just that, even that little bit will help the car grip. So we're going to put it like that, all the way flat and all the way forward. Next, we've got our bars and our shocks. Now, before we do that, what we need to do is we need to get our wheel spacing where we want it, because that's going to actually affect some stuff. So we want to have the right rear wheel at 1750. We want to have the left rear wheel all the way in at 1350. Okay. Real quick, a little note on this bump rubber and packer. These, I would consider these more like a setting than an adjustment. So for me, I have found that the 500-pound bump rubber and then the 1.5-inch packer shim are the best. This is not something where, you would go in and be like, oh man, my car's loose, I'm going to change my bump rubber. This is not. No, all this does is prevent the car from bottoming out. That's all it does. And what I run 500 pounds and 1.5-inch shim on every single track we go to. Does not matter. That's what I run, and just run it. You don't need to worry about anything else. So just set it and then forget it. Okay. Next, we're gonna get our bars. Now, this setup that I'm gonna show you, this base setup, is actually a setup that I got from Maxim. I had gone back to my my old notes and stuff like that, trying to find some setups, because I was like, what is going on with this? And it just wasn't working. And so what I did was I actually came across the Maxim setups. And what I did was I found the dry slick conditions. Even though the track that we're on right now is only 10%, it's not dry slick, I found this, used this as a base, and then went from there. Okay, got it dialed into where it fits, the iRacing. And so what we're going to do is we're going to put 10.25 bars in the front. Okay, we're going to even out the bar stops right now, and we're going to have thousands in the rear. All right, that's going to be our bars. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to run our bar stops on the right front. We're going to put it all the way up, 3 turns. On the left front, we're going to go up 3 turns. We want that as high as possible. Okay, ride height is very important in this game. Next, we're going to go down here, or next we're going to do our shocks. Now the right front shock, we're going to do a straight 5. Remember, this is a base setup, so you will make changes to this, but this is the base setup. You can tweak this based on the track that you're at. All right. On the left front, we're going to have a 4-6. On the left rear, we're going to put a 4-8. And then on the right rear, we're going to put a straight 5. All right. So you have 10.25 bars in the front. You've got the bar stops all the way up in the front. And then you've got a straight 5 shock on the right front and a 4-6 on the left front. In the rear, you've got 1,000 bars in the rear with a straight 5 shock on the right rear and a 4-8 shock on the left rear. Now comes the really important part. Ride heights, the tube height, okay? This matters, and it matters a lot. And not only does the ride height matters, but your corner weight matters. So when I'm running my base setup at the beginning of the night, depending on the track, okay? But for the most part, I want this corner weight to be within about 5 to 8 pounds of each other. Now, right now, I've got 3 more pounds on the left rear than the right rear. That's pretty good. To be honest, I would actually like this right rear to be a little bit taller, and I'd like the weight to be a little bit closer, so I'm going to put a 1/4 turn in. I have found for the ride heights that if you can get the rear at between 14 and a half and 14, basically 14 and a half to 14.7. And then on the left rear, if you can get it between 13 and 13.15, 13.2, that does pretty good. Now, when the track slicks off, raising the ride height will actually help you get more forward bite, but we'll cover that more in the other videos when we talk about, making adjustments and staying ahead of the track. Right now, we just want to cover the base setup. Okay, so that's the base setup. Understand, this base setup will work at every single track, and it'll work good. Okay, so let's run a couple laps and see how much faster we can do. Now, one thing that you're going to want to keep in mind is when you go from an iRacing setup and then now you do this setup, keep in mind that this car is going to feel so loose going into the corner because you have the wing all the way forward. Okay, so just realize that you're just barely going to turn that wheel. I mean, I just barely turned that thing and it went straight to the bottom. Now that's good. That's what we want because the car is going to go to the bottom and stay there. But we gotta smooth out a little bit. Now you can move the wing back a little bit. All right, you absolutely can move the wing back a little bit, and it will help you get some grip. But if you can avoid that, I just turned the car too much. I mean, that wasn't even a good lap, and we've shaved a tenth off our time. Now we're starting to smooth out. But if you can be smooth, you'll start shaving time off the clock. So it's going to take a little bit getting used to, but right, if I move the wing back a couple clicks here, right, you'll notice that I definitely get some more grip out of the car. It's sticking a little bit better. One of the things that you'll notice, especially when you're racing, if you can run the top with the wing all the way forward, it will have a big effect on your car. It really will. When you go to the bottom, you might want to actually move the wing back to help it get some more traction. But, being able to do that, that wing, that does cause some drag. Now remember, you don't want to sacrifice grip though, okay? All the horsepower in the world means nothing if you can't connect it to the track. So if you get out there and you're skirting all over the place and you're having trouble, holding your line, move the wing back a little bit until you get smooth and then gradually move it forward until you get comfortable, okay? So if we look here, you can see shaved another couple tenths right off our lap times, right? Very simple setup. And if I were to actually go out and turn some laps consistently and get, actually get a real feel for the car, I would be down in, this setup that I'm running right now, last week, running Charlotte Dirt Track, week 12 of season 1, I had like 3 fast times and 3 wins running this setup. I mean, it works. Now, I didn't use this setup in the main because I had to actually make some adjustments to stay ahead of the track. And that's what we're going to cover in the next video. All right. So that's going to do it all for this one. Now, really quick, do me a favor. If you like this, all right, please hit that like button, but also subscribe. Make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell. This YouTube channel is something that I just started for fun with my son. My son's 7, and he's been wanting to do this. And so I'm basically doing it just to kind of teach him about content creation and entrepreneurship and stuff like that. And these videos, right, it was an opportunity for me to get some content up. And like I said, there's a lot of people out there who have trouble setting up their cars. And so I was like, I'll just do this, right? And that's sweet. Help people out. And so if you like this, subscribe, because I'm going to be putting out a ton of these videos. All right. I mean, this is just the beginning. We're doing the 360 sprints right now because that's probably the most popular in terms of what people drive and have trouble with. But I'm going to do it for the midgets, the non-wing, the non-wing sprint cars, the late models, all of it. I'm going to do all of it. And then I'm going to be doing videos on, the different adjustments and when you should do shocks instead of bars and when you should change a spring or a ride height, like all that stuff, because I know all that stuff. I have experienced all of it. Like I've studied it, I've applied it in real life, and I know how this stuff works. And then I've actually tested all of it in iRacing, so I know how this stuff works. So make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell. And then leave a comment down below if there's something that you want to see in the next video. And something that, hey, Tommy, how about, dialing in the dirt midget at Fairbury, right? Or whatever. Just leave that comment down below. Let me know what else you want to see. Let me know if this helped you, right? If this helped you get some faster lap times. If you're like, hey, man, I use that setup and I set fast time, right on, sweet, right? That's what I want. That's why I'm doing this. I know a lot of people out there are like, oh, I don't want to share my setup, because then someone might beat me. Let's beat each other on the track racing, all right? I don't want to go into turn one, like what happened last week where I'm leading the race literally by a half a lap, and I got lapped cars that can't even hit the groove, and they're wrecking in front of me and they take me out. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want that. I want everybody to be able to race and have fun, and the setup has a big deal to do with that. So share these videos with people. Get them out there so other iRacing drivers, especially on the dirt, can see this stuff and help themselves. Okay? So that's going to do it. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed this. Like I said, if you did, hit that like button, share, subscribe, and leave a comment below. Do all that for me, and I will be back and see you in the next video. And until then, I want to wish you good luck, good racing, and take care.